All right, welcome to another episode of the KB Article. I'm joined with Kyle Kinsler, my partner in crime and co-host here, and we are happy to bring to you today Stacey Barnes. Stacey is kind of an expert in everything business, management, operations, marketing, development, you name it, training, technology, all of it. And I know this firsthand, as does Kyle, because we worked alongside Stacey for a number of years in the Liberty Tax Service franchise world. He was an area developer, franchisee, as well as corporate employee trainer, kind of jack of all trades. So we're excited to have him on. I know he'll drop tremendous value on the group today. So Stacey, welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. The technology part might be a bit of a stretch these days. I think I've forgotten more than I ever knew, but that's all good.
I still kind of you can get your microphone to work, right?
Yeah. We logged on and we're going, so that's good. That's the extent. Right. I'm at the stage of life where I have to ask my kids for help on tech problems, though. So it's a new stage of life for me.
As I tell people, I'm too old to know it and too young not to. So as far as technology goes, and I'm stuck in the middle. If I would have been 10 years younger, I'd have been okay. If we're 10 years older, I would have been out of it and not had to worry about it. But when we're our age, Stacey, we're kind of stuck in the middle, and it's kind of our demise, right? So, but it was fantastic. Yeah, but love having you on. I've known you now for Stacey. I counted it. It's been 20 years since 2003 when I introduced you and you introduced me in our IoT, I believe they call it, initial operations training through Liberty Tax. And I've always been fond of you, and we've kind of watched each other grow.
Polaroids. We actually used an actual Polaroid camera at that training, if you remember.
Did we now? No kidding.
Yeah, because we had to take a Polaroid picture and write on it.
Damn, you guys are old.
So,
yeah, that answers a lot, though. No.
But you're doing a lot of different things now. We've just you've come in and you came in and you're training technology, became an area developer. You got into a few stores. I remember the story where you used to hang out in your Uncle Sam or Lady Liberty outfit, right in the middle of the mall there, type of thing. You had a kiosk, and then get back somebody that was, and I learned from that passion that you had there. It says, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it, type of thing. So I was kind of, you got to do what you got to do when you're young and hungry and, and coming up into the system. But you taught us a lot, and we really appreciate you being here. So yeah, tell us, what have you been up to lately there, Stacey?
So after the 20 years with Liberty, 20 years is probably long enough to be anywhere. I left on good terms, no problems with the folks at Liberty. I've been back and contracted work at conventions and things. So still love the people to death. But for me, it was just time to move on. And what I learned that I loved the most, and my passion while I was there, was training and developing and leadership development for the franchisees. So I joined another franchise. I joined FocalPoint Business Coaching and Training, so I could focus on that. You guys know how it is at corporate. There's things that at any corporate job, there's things you love, things you don't love, and sometimes the ratio gets out of whack. And so what this allowed me to do is, most of what I do on a daily basis now are the things that I really love to do. Things like this.
Right. And do you still love traveling? And it's just a little note here. So Stacey Barnes is the only guy from corporate that ever flew to North Dakota and drove to my store in Williston, in below zero temperatures, and got there because he just needed to, he wanted to see what every corner of the country looked like, and it was like, but it was really cool that you would come out. It was like, here he is, the corporate guy, come here and visit that, come out and visit us. And I always appreciated that you did do that. So the one time somebody from corporate come out,
I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I would fly into, say, Minneapolis, and then I would hit the Dakotas, and I've been out to Kalispell, Wyoming, and all throughout. So I've been to all 50 states, and I still love to travel, but I now get to do it on my terms.
Right.
So it's a little better when it's not forced upon you. But for those trips, I volunteered for that because our training season was in the summertime and fall. during the wintertime, during tax season, it was either, work at my stores or find something to do. And operations or compliance or some of the other departments would need help. And they say, well, I'll help, but here's where I want to go. And that's where I always wanted to go, was where the cold and the snow was. I didn't really like the big trucks that were going up to the oil fields. I thought they were going to kill me.
It gets messy up there, that's for sure.
So now you're into, kind of doing what you love and passionate about with small business owners out there. Are you focused on any particular niche, or just all those of us who kind of need additional guidance, support, and leadership? Or
Yes. So like any good business, the startup through FocalPoint was great, and they'll help identify the ideal client avatar. And since my background was franchising, instead of picking an industry, I picked franchisees as kind of my focus. And a lot of my time was spent working with people from startup to, 3 to 5 million, in that range. And so I just kind of picked franchisees, didn't worry about industry, that are from startup to 5 million. And that's kind of been my target. But I've worked with executives from multi-billion-dollar companies since I left. I've worked with doctors, I've worked with lawyers. And so all of that comes from referral. So any marketing efforts I do are kind of focused at the franchisee entrepreneurial level.
Did you ever look at the franchisor before? Did you ever go in to see, say, I want to be a coach for maybe this particular somebody that's within this particular franchisee, but then you look at the franchisor system and it just wasn't conducive to where they needed to be, and and maybe you could tell that this franchise just maybe isn't gonna cut it, type of thing? Or do you kind of give them all a chance to, are they, some are probably more legit than others, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and it's like, even within the franchisee world, within a system, there's a bell curve, and within the ADs, area developers, there's a bell curve. And so with franchisors, there's a bell curve. There's some that are really excellent. There's some that are just getting off the ground, hoping to find their feet. And there's some that are just not good at all. They're just terrible. And so when I'm trying to help people decide, what franchise to go with, number one, I recommend using someone like our buddy Andy Banker at FranChoice to have someone to guide you through the process. But the questions that you need to be asking when you're doing your validation calls to other franchisees are exactly what you asked there. How well are you supported through your system? Now, what I see most franchisors kind of struggle with is they provide pretty good operational support. So they'll have a coach to help you through their particular system. But a lot of times they're lacking on having a coach that really coaches you on what does it mean to have a business. Because the reason a lot of people choose franchising is they're not really familiar with business, and they're looking for a system that's something that they can just jump into fairly quickly, but they're not bringing a business experience to it. And so most of what I see lacking is just that general business knowledge that's needed. And then obviously I'm big on mindset and leadership.
Right.
Stacey, would you say that, I know you've been heavily involved in the franchisor world. People do come in to buy a system and set. A lot are kind of naive and think they can just let it, hey, we're giving you the money, we're going to buy the system, and boom, it's going to blossom, it's going to water itself, everything's going to be good. That's just like any business owner, though. We see so many out there that are outside of franchising that they get good at something, right? So now they're just going to go do that for themselves. Well, then it becomes really, really hard, because you're the IT guy, management guy, operations guy, you're everything. What is it that drives somebody to reach out to somebody like you, or surround themselves with other like-minded folks that maybe have gone down that road, or can help mentor them along the way? What ultimately drives people to reach out, to contact you, to shift and change, to get help?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of times it's just I'm at my wit's end. I've got to call somebody. And so it gets so far down, and they get so frustrated that they're willing to try something they haven't tried. And so unfortunately, that's the way it happens a lot of times. And I think you nailed it. People find something they love to do, and so, well, I'm going to start a business doing this. It's the E-Myth Revisited, story of the baker who loved baking, so started a bakery, and then they learned that owning a bakery is not like being a baker. And so what happens is, whether it's a franchise or their own business, instead of creating a business, they've just find themselves in a lower paying job because they're doing everything that they just bought a job. They didn't invest in a business, and then they get really frustrated. And so the things that are universal: time, there's just not enough of it. Where's all my time going as a leader so I can scale? There's money issues and finance issues. There's team issues. There's always trust and team issues. And then finally, strategy and exit planning. In those 4 areas, people will find themselves generally so frustrated that they start to seek out help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Kind of like the, we're in the tax, accounting, and bookkeeping space, and more than just the X's and O's of debits and credits and things like that. We really want to help our small business owners that we're working with understand the story their financial statements are telling them, help them make decisions. And so many times I have conversations with folks that, we have to ask them the hard question: are you building a business, or you just want a job that you've created for yourself that might have some flexibility so you can call yourself a business owner? What do you want? Because if you want a business that's going to run on systems, process, something without you, and it's going to be valuable at the end of the day, something you create for yourself is going to go away if you go away. So, and you're going to make more money across the street doing it for somebody that's got a business with systems and processes doing the same damn thing. And you're going to be happy. Your family's going to be happier. Everybody's going to be happy. So what do you want?
Right.
Right. Or they've been in business 20 years and they're still stuck in that same boat. What do you want?
Right. Do you kind of do it when you go in and you talk to a business owner or somebody that you're taking on as a coaching client? You kind of do a needs analysis then and kind of set them down and say these, you had all those things, and you got the last thing people think about is that exit strategy, and your exit strategy needs to be as strong as your entrance strategy, that you find out. Like most 90% of business owners get into something and they have no idea where they want to be in 15 or 20 years, type of thing. So that takes planning and then understanding systems and processes. And also something I kind of touch on a little bit more is more of the soft skills, not so much the management, but the leadership skills that you have within an organization. And, where does that bring you? And when we all got into this 20 years ago, I had none of that stuff. All I knew is I wanted to be in a business for myself. But yeah, I mean, I'd go out and I'd market until noon, and then I go back to the office and then I do tax preparation until 5. And then the kids would come to the office and they'd be put in the crib or whatever. And then my wife and I would be there until 9 when we close the door. And then we assemble until midnight and do it all over again. I mean, it was just, we were all everything, so that one person, they come into a business and yeah, you can grind it, but you're going to get burnt out really fast. That's where I think that's where in Chad and I, we have coaches as well. But yeah, where does that coach kind of come into that, and then kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
What's your process?
Yeah. Before I will take a dime from anybody, we run through a process of a needs analysis and where are you? What are you looking for? What do you need to do? I'm not one that's just going to sell a package to someone that I don't think they're going to do the work. I don't think that it's going to work for them. And so I do what we call a strategic business review. It's about an hour. It's free of charge. We go through the business, we go through the numbers, we go through goals, we go through planning. And where, regardless of where they are and what the needs are, most people, I don't know if I can say 100% or not, but the vast majority of people I start with, we start working on just clarity, because what I find during the strategic business review is there really isn't clarity around what they wanted, what they really want to get out of the business. I think a lot of folks get into it with some kind of a notion that being a business owner is all, roses and easy, and you can just kind of show up when you want to show up. I don't know that we paint a good enough picture of the business owner that's doing the things that I was doing and you were doing when our kids are having to come have a picnic lunch at the office with us because we can't get away for days at the time, because that's part of in the early days of what being a business owner is. And so what we do is we go through that strategic business review. Then we go through a bit of, once we sign on, we go through this idea of clarity. I'm a firm believer that whether you want to be the best business owner, the best executive, or just the best person you can be, you've got to have a good sense of self. You've got to know yourself. And so that's where I typically start with folks. Once we decide there's a need, there's a fit, and I believe I can help you, let's move forward. That's where we start, is I'll help you get to know yourself better so that you understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your needs, and where you really want to go in life. And once we've got that, once I know the end, and once I have the end in mind, as Stephen Covey would say, then we can chart a path of how to get there.
Right. And I think oftentimes what will happen, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, is maybe people, they don't reach out when they need help. And then there's that one thing that gets in the way, and it's called your ego and your pride. And gosh, I think the most successful people I know have coaches themselves. There's always that next level, and everybody can always find that next level of improvement. Everybody's got gaps. And like they always said, if you're the smartest person in the room, you probably need to find a different room to be in, so.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a little self-serving for me to say everybody needs a coach, because I am one, but I have multiple coaches. I have Coach Phil, who helps me with mindset and general business. I have, through the Maxwell organization, there's coaching coaches, speaking coaches, sales and business development coaches that I have access to with weekly calls throughout the week. Between the two organizations, there's like 60 hours of mentorship that I can be a part of when I choose to be a part of it. And without those things, it really would be tough. It's so easy for the imposter syndrome to kick in and just to start doubting and get a little bit down on yourself. We need somebody that's going to help hold us accountable.
Right. I can tell you, for me, a lot of it was ego. Two, I was uncomfortable being vulnerable, and I thought I had to be the one that had all the answers. And Kyle can attest to it. He's seen it early on in our partnership. But I can tell you, I've kind of seen the light on the other side, and we adapting that. If you start empowering people and giving up ownership, you enjoy life so much more, right? You get out of your own way and give it to other people. One, they're probably going to do it better if you got the right people, and two, you get the satisfaction of, one, watching them delight in something that they're good at, and your stress level is way down, your family life is better, just everything. But kind of talking about it took me a process to go through, near failure, a lot of lumps, a whole slew of different things. But when it all changed for me was when I got in rooms of people that were doing things I wanted to be doing. I started focusing more time on my fitness, my overall health, mental and physical health, well-being. Everything started to change. So I know routine is a big part of what you do and the life of entrepreneurship. I think I've probably heard you talk about routine at a convention before, but how important is routine, like starting in the morning, your routine and your physical and mental health to success?
It's absolutely critical for me, and so I try my best to teach it to others. But I start my day with thinking, reading, and a devotion. And so I've got some things that I do. I start my morning with some type of exercise, whether it's, I used to run marathons and ultra marathons and things like that. So
Right.
it's not quite to that level anymore. Now it's more of a nice walk with my dog Russell, who you may have just heard barking. I don't know, but so it's a little more laid back now. But I try to start every day engaging physical, spiritual, and mental, and just getting my day started on a good foot. If I can get those three things geared up through my routine early in the morning, I have a much more successful day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. And those people that are out there and I think oftentimes when they don't want to get into a routine, especially if you're kind of, I don't know, if you're kind of like me. I'm a little bit probably the ADHD. I'm kind of all over. I'm the guy that stands up in the back of the room and I can't sit still. Just kind of, routine for me comes a little bit. It comes harder, but I do, I start out, each day, prepping what I need to get done, and I get into the word a little bit, and do some reading, but also getting that physical exercise or whatever. But I think I don't have that set routine, but I think some people, they're better at it than other people. To me, sometimes I think routine is important, but to me, sometimes it seems mundane, and it's hard for me to. It's kind of like going to the gym and you're doing the same exercises over and over again every day. So now I'm kind of constantly looking at what's if I'm working this muscle group, what's some different stuff that I can have or whatever. What are some things that you can do during your routine that can keep them from being mundane?
Burpees.
Yeah. So a lot of what was that?
Burpees.
What was that, Chad?
Burpees.
Nothing mundane about a burpee. Nope, nothing mundane there. Well, even with the mental stuff, what I try to do is I try to be very intentional. And so, what is my goal for the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then I'm intentionally working on something along those lines. Now, most of my life is spent coaching, teaching, and training, and so a lot of my reading is gathering stories, anecdotes, quotes, and things that I can use in speeches and things that I'm going to do down the road. But I just try to be very intentional. So it's not the same thing all the time. I'm constantly know what I'm working on, and I'm working towards an actual purpose. As long as I'm working toward the purpose, it doesn't seem to get mundane. But when you're training for a marathon and you're running 5 days a week, pretty much along the same track, once you get used to that, it's hard to find anything mundane once you get used to finding that fun.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you, man. And
I couldn't do that.
In terms of working out and the fitness side of it, I kind of switch things up a little bit, because doing the same thing over and over and over again, you can lose interest. So for me, I'd run a lot, and I get into that cycle. And then like now for the last 30 days, I've been getting up, making some eggs, eating, and then going for a 30-minute walk, and listening to a podcast without my earplugs in. Just, it's dark, the stars are shining, and it's peaceful. I'm not overexerting myself. But sometimes I'll try to burn 700 calories in 45 minutes, but I'm not in that cycle right now. So I break it up. But I think for me, if I miss my routine, if I miss one thing, like yesterday, I did not get up, eat, go for a walk, and then come in, spend an hour or two doing my thing, reading, studying, whatever it may be. I was off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes the whole day feel wrong.
Mentally, everything was out of rhythm.
Yeah, Chad's very, very routine oriented. You couldn't, there's a period of time, and I don't even know anymore. I mean, try, but you couldn't even call him within a particular, with a time zone of the day. And, maybe that is kind of still, how it is, but there's work time, and then there's, kind of open time where I get, those other things done. And Chad does a really good job as far as breaking that down, and much more disciplined than, let's say, that I am. Doing this thing. So
yeah. So from 5 to 7 every morning, my phone is on a do not disturb. That's my time from 5 to 7. And after that, you can have whatever time you want, but between that time, that's mine. And I try to guard it, because I'm like Chad. If it's different, my whole day just feels wrong. And that was a huge challenge when I was traveling, because I'd spend hotel nights about half the year in a hotel,
right.
and maintaining multiple time zones and all the whole 9 yards. It's really hard to maintain that schedule, and so I'm not quite as dependent on the schedule as I used to be, because I had to learn a different way of handling it through the travel. But it still doesn't feel right if I don't get that 2 hours of my time in the morning.
Yeah,
right.
I'm like you. It's not 5 to 7. I typically 5 to 9. I don't like to schedule anything. 5 to 7 is my time, but I don't schedule anything until 9 a.m. because I want to control it. Now, I might do some emails. I might do some work. I might make some phone calls. but I want to control it until 9, and then the day can start giving me what it's got to offer, right? There's one day, Mondays, we
Yep.
have our weekly call, Terry and Kyle and I at 8. But that's the only day where till 9 o'clock.
Yeah. Typically people don't start
Well,
answering.
so I'm with you. I'm kind of I like the 9 o'clock as well. Just it helps you get into the day with a good mindset and a good. But because my network is nationwide and I do most of my coaching via Zoom, I'm not quite as strict to a work schedule as I would like to be. So my ideal calendar would stop me at a certain time. But a lot of the folks I work with are in California, Washington, somewhere. So a lot of times my nights go later. And so occasionally if I know I'm going to be working and coaching until 10, 11 o'clock my time at night, then that 5 to 7 might become 7 to 9 or something like that to compensate, just to make sure. I'm not at the age where 4 hours of sleep cuts it for me. And so I want my help.
Do that anymore. What's the matter?
No, I believe that the health is the foundation of everything. Health, you said mental and spiritual, mental and physical, and spiritual for me. I think all three of those are important for me. And so my sleep I guard, and the exercise, I try my best to stay on at least a 5-day schedule for that.
Right. Now, I know Stacey, I know we're just touching the surface on here on where we want to. Would love to have you come back more. We just kind of I know you so well. You got so much information that's out there, and speaking of time, what is we probably need to kind of get going here before too long here. But what is some give us something like we're coming up in our season, and we're in a season a seasonal business. What kind of nugget can you give us that just kind of, because I don't know, last time I was on a conference call with you and you gave us most crazy idea of having everybody write something on a piece of paper, what the one thing that will actually drive that person will bring as an attribute to increase your business, and what's that one thing that will tear your business down. And I was so scared to do that, but we did it. And I tell you, that was one of the most significant growth times that we had within an organization, I think, because we really kind of put that out there. And I thought it was a crazy idea. I said, I got to do what Stacey, had put out on that call. And I love that. And we definitely have to do that again. But is there a nugget that you can give us to chew on? You got so many there, Stacey.
So that's always a good one. We spend so much time as business owners worrying about our ideal client avatar, and rightly so, we should do that. But we should spend equal or more time on the ideal employee avatar to make sure that we're bringing the right people into our team. So we've got to know our values, our vision. We've got to know we got to know our why, and we've got to bring people in that share the values but think differently and have different strengths. And so having that ideal employee avatar is important, and that's kind of what I was trying to help you get to with that exercise. But in a seasonal business, the timing of a seasonal business is so important, especially the tax business that you guys are in. There's an ebb and flow of the tax business, and even with all the changes the IRS has made over the last decade and things, there's still an ebb and a flow of the tax season. And so when the recommendation is that you need to have this done by this date or on this date, it's not a suggestion. That's how it has to be, because you don't get another quarter to make it up. and so and precision, and
most employees don't understand that part. Yeah. It's like you don't get another chance.
And the other thing is, since there is an ebb and a flow, you've got to put in the work now to build the momentum for the marketing to work. And so right now, we're not spending a lot of dollars on marketing in your business. We're spending some time and effort, maybe doing parades and community events and Christmas wrapping and things like that. But when the calendar flips, you better be ready to go. All the planning is done. January 1, it's time to rock and roll, because it's go time. It's game time, and you got to be ready to go.
Right. As I always maintain, as for a business owner, especially in a seasonal business, it's that month or two that leading up to the business. And for us, like right now, we're leading into tax season. It's our busiest time of year. And it's funny, I still talk to people and say, oh boy, you must be busy right now. And it's January, February, March. And I was like, come January 2, we hit the button and we're either ready to go or we're not ready to go, when that time comes. If you haven't done the work ahead of time, it's not going to be there. You can't, especially in a seasonal business, is that you can't start working on your business once you're in the season. All that preparation, there's no hanging around as people in the tax business, or you're even in the golf club, or whatever it may be. We're not sitting around and watching television and stuff like that most of the time. So. And
if you in your business, if you hit the middle of January, if in your business you hit the middle of January and you're still worried about your people and your training and your marketing plan, you're losing. You're behind.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Been there, man. I tried that. That shit don't work.
No.
That approach does not work at all. So
no.
And that used to be one of the pitches of why I got into this business, but it took me about 10 years to figure out. It says, this isn't working real well doing this, like this. Yeah. So it's
you just got to work. You got to work 3 months and then your vacation for 9.
Right. Franchises like that. That's why I got into it.
Hey, Stacey, I know we've kept you a long time. We appreciate that time, but one last thing. I know you always threw up, nuggets you shared, like Kyle mentioned, but you always share good books to gain wisdom. What are a couple of recommendations that you have for the listeners that you think, whether it be mental, physical, spiritual, whatever, that you would recommend to our listeners?
Oh man, so there's so many ways I could go with this one. What I would say is it really depends on what the listener is working on. And so if you're working on team building, I've been doing a lot of work, and it seems to be a common thread with people I'm working with right now is building teams. And so I've got a couple. This one by David Horsager, Trusted Leader, is really, really good. I got a good leadership program that I'm a part of through that one. It's very similar to the 5 dysfunctions of a team. It's written in a parable. So the Lencioni 5 dysfunctions of a team for teamwork is also a classic and a good one as well. But the parable way of telling the story is very similar in this one. So if teamwork is something you're working on, obviously you guys know how I feel about John Maxwell. If leadership is something you want to work on, you cannot go wrong with the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell.
Sure.
And then in January, I'm going to be starting a kind of a course on, we're going to dig real deep into Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And that's going to be all about mindset. I'm going to be promoting a class, $99, 13 sessions.
Ooh,
I'm in, man. Let us know.
I like that.
That's that book is,
phenomenal. Yeah.
That's when I started to shift my mindset around life, business, just everything. It was Think and Grow Rich. I never read.
Yeah. Most people
2015. That was one of the first books I read, and it changed things.
And rich
most business owners, they've allowed the business to become their life, right? So they're living for the business, and what we need to figure out is what life do we want to live, and let's have a business that creates the life instead of the other way around. And that's what that mindset can get you.
Right.
Yeah. A great deal. Well, hey, Stacey, we appreciate you being on, man. We're going to have to cut it here, but where can folks find you, Stacey, if they need individual coaching, team coaching, or just want to be a part of this book club or book study that you're doing here coming in January?
Yeah, just come to go to www.coachstaceyb.com, STACEY as it is on the screen, but coachstaceyb.com. And there's also there's a business checklist, a leadership checklist, so you can do a free little survey to see where you stand on your business as well. It's pretty cool. Gives you a nice little report. And if it's something you want to talk through, that's a good way to just figure out something that we can talk about.
No, and I did do an assessment like that probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago on the EOS program. They had that where you're at in the assessment. And I took that again about 6 months ago, and it was phenomenal what the study, the EOS system can do for us, or whatever it was, kind of see where we are. and kind of where we're going. But it really set with identifying our attributes in our employees and what kind of people that we want to be. Who do we want to be, as an organization? Who represents us as an organization, and kind of go from there. And once we could do that, it was so much easier because we weren't kind of going and grabbing all over the place, just trying to put out fires for people that weren't living our values, all the time. So we really tried as hard as we can.
Yeah,
but
well,
we're not
now,
perfect, trying to protect our values that we have. But it's so important within an organization.
Now the EOS system is a competitor. EOS system is a competitor of FocalPoint. So,
really now?
But if we're going to talk book recommendations, the book that is based on Traction is an excellent, fantastic book.
Oh, sure.
And so that's another book that I've got it in my pile right here. I was going through some things in it to help a client the other day.
Right. And the E-Myth is a classic. That's only a business book I've read 3 times. I pick it up just routinely from time to time when things, or whatever it is. But it's an easy read, but it makes so much sense, at the same time.
Yeah.
But the
well, and it's that trap we all fall into.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stacey.
Appreciate it, Stacey. Hey, we already wrapped it up. You know where to find
fun.
Stacey. Get signed up for his event coming in January, or the book study. He'll get us the details. We'll share it with you on Think and Grow Rich.
I'd love to be part of that.
Thanks again, Stacey. Appreciate you, bro.
All right. Want to stay on there, Stacey?
Yeah, man. Thank you, guys.